topic which we'll discuss is profile section in F5. When I talked about profile section, what does it means, why it is required, and how we can configure it. So we need to understand all perspective of it. So I told you when we were on F5, we started it, we said that it's a deny device. So when I was there, I told you like by default F5 is not smart. First, it is a deny device and it is not smart. So who will make it smart? First, we have seen health monitor. We have also seen load balancing algo. And third one is your profile. So these are the pillars which will help F5 to become smart. It will help F5 to take decisions. That is what you need to understand. Because without it, you cannot control how the F5 will process different type of traffic. So profile section, if I talk about, is configuration object. You can say simple object in F5, which will have F5 to process different type of traffic. Let's say I'm getting HTTPS traffic. I'm getting HTTP traffic. I'm getting FTP traffic. I'm getting SNMP traffic. I'm getting SMTP traffic. I'm getting TCP traffic. How F5 will come to know whether it's a TCP traffic, HTTP traffic, different profiles. So this profile section will help. It will help to understand the behavior of protocols. It will help to understand network and application level protocol. It is a very powerful object, basically, which will be controlling how F5 will process different type of traffic protocols and applications. Why we you need to use profile? Why we should use a profile section? Example, let's say I have an HTTP protocol. I want to examine HTTP headers. What is coming inside HTTP packet? I want to examine and manipulate. So in that case, I need to assign HTTP profile on my virtual server. So profile will provide the intelligence required for virtual server to inspect, understand the application. Layer protocol. Because F5 is a full proxy architecture. So it can modify, manipulate, inspect both sides of the traffic. So HTTP, when we will discuss later on when ASM will come, HTTP works on request and response headers. That is very, very critical. Because you need to understand that by default F5 will not understand what is coming inside the packet. I want F5 to inspect, understand application layer protocol. I want to manipulate, inspect. Same way, you can take example of FTP. FTP works on which protocol? Anyone? When I talk about FTP, FTP works on which protocol or port number if I talk about? So it works on 20 and 21. This is a critical interview question which will be asked, whether it's an Palo Alto interview, F5 interview, or TCP. So there are two types of FTP. You can search on Google. One is active FTP, one is passive FTP. So when I talk about active FTP, I need to configure virtual server with port number 21. So in this case, client will use this port to initiate the command and control communication. When client will establish communication with F5 over port 21, big IP will create another separate connection to FTP server. And there will be a separate FTP server connection which will try to initiate a separate data connection on port 20. So this will be asked, what is the use of port 20 and port 21? So when a traffic will come to server and it will send to big IP, let's say, connection will get dropped because doesn't it is expecting traffic to come on server port 20, but it is expecting on 21 example. So that is why I want to assign virtual server one profile to examine this type of traffic. So it will aware that how active FTP works. That is critical. So we will go further on, you will understand more. So we'll understand concept, configuration, then there are different types of profiles which are very, very critical. So we'll talk about SSL profiles. We will talk about persistence profile. These are the most used profiles in F5. In SSL, we will talk about SSL offloading, SSL bridging, and then we will talk about SSL pass-through. How encryption and decryption happens, we'll study on that. This is very, very critical topic. Around 5 questions will be asked in interview related to SSL or profile section. So please understand carefully. Let's go further. So this is how profile definition is, which I told you. It will help virtual server traffic to be processed. How traffic is processed on F5, it will tell. How the virtual server traffic is processed. If it's an HTTP, then we need HTTP profile. If it's an HTTPS, then we need SSL profile. So profile are always called on virtual server. This you need to take care. When I talk about profile section, it is a collection of settings that define the traffic behavior. That controls the behavior of particular type of traffic. So once we'll talk about different types of profile, you will understand more on that part. Here is one example. Let's say I have one client, I have F5, and I have web application servers where my application is hosted. Now, initial first connection is which one? Anyone? When client wants to connect to my virtual server, first one will be which handshake? TCP handshake. So by default, TCP profile is always assigned on my virtual server. After that, I want some behavior like persistence or SSL, encryption, decryption. In that case, I want F5 to analyze my HTTP headers. I'll show you later on how useful is HTTP profile. Because when we'll talk about persistence section, you will understand more on HTTP, like how it will check the headers. Headers are nothing but request and response headers in HTTP. So you can define multiple profiles in your virtual server. I'll show you when you go into your box. Just click on advanced. After that, where you can see it, you can go to local traffic profile section. Here are different types of profiles which are there. You can see HTTP profile, content profile, then we have persistence profile, protocol profiles, SSL profile, authentication. And when we go to virtual server, I'll show you one virtual server. This is where profile section is called. Can anyone tell me one interview question will be asked in this? Why I will see I can see client profile and server profile here. I can see client and server profile. Anyone? What is the use of this client profile and what is the use of server profile? Why there are two types of profile in one virtual server? We see, okay, TCP is one profile, HTTP is one profile, maybe UDP is one profile, FTP is one profile. But why in TCP I can see client side profile and server side profile? What is the logic? See, guys, configuration you can get on Google. Your main agenda is to understand why we need particular thing. That is the main. If your basic is clear, you can understand any load balancer, whether it is F5, Redware, Citrix. Main thing is you need to understand the concept. So why we need client and server profile? Anyone on the chat? So let's say we have F5, we have multiple client connecting to virtual server, then we have different servers. So why we need client and server profile is because there are two separate connections. F5 works as full proxy architecture. So this profile is independent on this profile. Sometimes you will see that this here we can use WAN optimization profile. Here we can use LAN optimization because this one is WAN traffic, this one is LAN traffic. That is why I'll show you here. Here you can see WAN optimization. Here you can see LAN optimization. And here we can see LAN optimization. So this one will handle your WAN traffic. This one will be handling your LAN traffic. That is important because I want to manipulate the traffic. I want to examine. So that is why you assign traffic. So if you go further on, if it's an SSL connections, then you need to assign SSL profile. So we will see what does client SSL profile means, what does server SSL profile means. A simple example which I will tell you, I'll again have a connection. Then I have F5. And then I have multiple servers. So client SSL will be called between client to F5. What does it do? It will encrypt this connection. Only client to F5. But when I assign server SSL, this connection will also get encrypted. If I want end-to-end encryption, means end-to-end HTTPS, then I need to use both profiles. Very, very critical, guys. Now, you can have different profile, like FTP profile is for FTP connection. Then we have LDAP profile, SMTP profile. So let's go further on. See this. You can have multiple profiles in same virtual server. This will solve the purpose of layer 4 traffic. This will help F5 to handle layer 4 traffic intelligently. This will allow F5 to handle SSL traffic. This will help F5 to manipulate or inspect HTTP headers. And another profile is cookie persistence, that is a sub part of this that we will see later on. So persistence is required when you have client connecting to icacbank.com and you want all connection from starting to end should go to one server until your transaction is completed. In that case, it is called persistence profile. So that you need to understand. Now, when we talk about further profile sections, we'll go one by one. First one is called service profile. Service profiles are all layer 7 profile, HTTP, FTP. That is called service profile in F5. DNS is another example. So it is used for controlling application layer traffic. That is why it's called service profile. Then further on, persistence profile, cookie and source address persistence. That is for controlling your client connection, maintaining your client connection throughout the session. I want that if connection is initiated from this client with source IP 1.10, it should always go to the same server throughout the session. So it is used for maintaining your client connection going to same pool member in one session. That is what persistence means. That will be helpful in your browsing traffic, banking websites, where you want throughout the life of session, your connection should go to same server. If it goes here, then connection can get breakout. That is the help of persistence profile. Then we have protocol profile. That is called TCP UDP profile, L4 profile. That is used default profile. It is assigned default profile on client side and server side connection. It is used to control your timeout settings of your connection and connection management because it is used for layer 4 traffic. Before having HTTP traffic, you have TCP handshake successful. Now, if we go further on, SSL profile that is used for SSL encryption and decryption, or you can say SSL termination, offloading. This all will be detailed sections, but I'm telling you what type of profiles are by default available. Authentication profile. It allows big IP to authenticate with client prior to load balance, like LDAP, TACAS. It can also act like before someone can access my server, it has to authenticate whether it's a valid user or not. That is where authentication profiles comes in. Very, very critical. Very, very important, guys. Now, when I talk about some other profile, the extreme profile that is not much use, but if you want to change some content of the server before it reaches the client, then that profile is used. Okay, now let's go further on. Persistence profile is the first section. Little detail on persistence profile. When I talk about persistence profile, what happens? Let's say in this screen you have two connections. One is Vidit, one is Hemu. I want all my F5 connection should go to F5 servers throughout my life of session. Life of session means until your connection is completed. I want Hemu connection of Palo Alto should go to Palo Alto servers. So this is how persistence profile works. So it ensures that same client traffic should send to same pool member throughout the session so that you will see persistence profile mostly are used in your web traffic where you want consistency like banking traffic when you log in, when you transfer, you don't want your sessions to log out, right? So in that case you want all connection should go to same server. So how F5 will track using persistence? There is a table which I'll show you later on. That is where persistence profile comes into picture. Because it is required to redirect the additional request. Let's say first request come, Second request, if it's the same client, it should go to server 1. So it will be used in web applications and some voice technology, SIP, and remote access. That is the use case. So I want to redirect my additional request and connection from same client should go to same server. So how F5 will examine? It will examine through persistence table, which I will see where it will track what is the initial client IP. If it's an existing client IP, it should go to the same server. That is how persistence work. SSL termination. What does it mean? Very, very important. I have a client connection and then I have F5, then I have servers. Previously, servers were doing all encryption and decryption. Okay, but I don't want because server traffic does not have dedicated SSL engine. My performance was becoming slow because server does not have dedicated SSL hardware. It cannot process SSL traffic effectively and performance was becoming slow. I want all my traffic to get offloaded to F5. In that case, what will happen is all your traffic coming from client to F5 will be encrypted. Previously, server was doing encryption and decryption. Now, F5 is doing encryption and decryption because F5 has a dedicated SSL engine which will increase or improve your performance. It has central repository to manage your different certificate for different FQDN. So in order to intercept SSL traffic, we need to assign SSL profile. So it can be either end-to-end encryption or it can be SSL offloading. Offloading means or termination means that all my F5 traffic which comes, it will encrypt and before sending to server, it will decrypt that. So client side connection will be encrypted. Now one question this in interview it will be asked. Why I'd want this connection to be encrypted, but why I don't want, sometimes there are use cases, I only want client side connection to be encrypted, but I don't want server side connection to be encrypted. Anyone? Example, interview question. Very, very important. In between, guys, I'll keep telling you this is very critical interview question. Anyone? Why mostly client side connections are encrypted, but server side connections are not encrypted or SSL enabled? Because this is an internet traffic. And this one is internal traffic. That is the main use case of SSL termination. FTP. So we have, I want F5 to identify that traffic is active FTP. So in that case, I need to assign FTP profile where we have two connection. One is control connection, one is data transfer connection. So that is another use of FTP traffic. Now, next one. Very, very critical understanding of profile dependency on virtual server. Very, very important topic, guys. Please understand carefully. When we talk about profile section, we can have different profiles called on my virtual server. But before assigning profile, you need to understand the dependency. Always you understand by OSI layer. In OSI layer, first layer is physical layer. Another layer is data link. Third layer is network layer. Fourth layer is TCP. Then we have later on layer 7 profile. What is it is saying is in virtual server, I cannot assign in same virtual server TCP and UDP at same layer. Either you can assign TCP on virtual server or UDP at same layer. But I can assign TCP and HTTP profile because that are at separate layer. Please note that in virtual server, when I talk about same layer, you can assign only one protocol. But profile used at higher layer can be used. They cannot assign same layer to protocols profile in same virtual server. Second thing, guys, like here HTTP and FTP cannot be called on same virtual server. If they want HTTP traffic virtual server, then we will create one HTTP traffic virtual server. If they want FTP, then we'll have to create separate virtual server because they exist on same layer. But there are some profiles which are dependent on another profile. Like for cookie profile, if you want to assign a cookie profile on your virtual server or persistence profile, you need to first assign HTTP profile in that virtual server. Otherwise, it will not work. Now, if I talk about, I'll show you one example. I'll show you, can we assign TCP and HTTP on same virtual server? Let's see. I'll log in. If I change it to protocol UDP, can you see? There I can define TCP traffic here. So at same layer, either of one you can use, either TCP profile or UDP profile, because both cannot coexist. So one of two can be assigned. Same with HTTP and FTP. I'll show you. Let's say I have TCP. If I use FTP profile, then HTTP profile will be grayed out. Can you see? So if you want to use both the profiles, then you have to create two virtual server. But some profiles are dependent. Let's say cookie persistence. Cookie persistence is part of your HTTP protocol. That is why you need to assign HTTP profile. Because if we do not configure HTTP profile in virtual server, then your F5 cannot see what is the cookie coming from browser because that can see cookie only in HTTP header. Okay, in summary, whatever profile you assign to virtual server, it will help F5 to handle the traffic which it receives. It will make F5 intelligence. It provides intelligence to F5 to understand different profiles. Now, another important critical caution in interview. What is default profiles? What does custom profiles means? When I talk about default profile, same like monitor, we have default profiles and they are stored in this directory. It should not get modified and it should not get deleted. Deleted, you cannot delete it. And it should not get modified. If you modify it, then it can impact other virtual server. What I am saying default profile is here it is. These are your default profile. Let's say persistence I'm using source address. This is my default profile. If I show you TCP, this is my default profile. These are default profile. Now one question for you all. Let's say I have an F5 where I have 3 virtual server. I have assigned TCP profile by default profile. Okay. So what it is saying is you should never modify default profile. If you have a need to modify any profile, you need to create custom profile. Can anyone tell me why it is used? I'll tell you. Let's say if you change this profile, same profile is used in this and this also. Let's say I have timeout setting here. By default, what is the idle timeout in TCP? Anyone? Important interview question. What is the idle timeout value in TCP? Here you can see. Now, if someone says that, hey, can you set this virtual server as 600 seconds idle timeout? This virtual as 300, this virtual server as 400. Now, can you tell me, will you create custom profile or will you change default profile? If you change this default profile to 600 seconds, then it will change this virtual server also, this virtual server also. Because it is used in several virtual server. That is why it is very, very highly recommendation suggestion by F5 that you should never modify default profile. If you want to change some settings, create a custom profile. That is very, very critical. So there is a relationship between parent profile and child profile, but I hope you understood the question. If I change this profile, this was used in different virtual server. So for particular virtual server, if I want to change, let's say for one application, I want timeout to be 600 seconds. So what I will do, I'll go to profile section. I'll say plus sign, custom profile I'll create. Can you see? Here it is parent profile. So there is parent child relationship. Most of the, if you want all the settings to be inherit and you want to change particular setting, then you just say TCP custom timeout. Okay, that is how custom profile is created. Now here you have to change whatever you will select here, like here in bracket, that will only get changed. Others will get inherited from parent. Whatever settings you want to desire to change, you just select that. That will get changed. That is why it is called custom profile. So I'll say 600 second. And then you can assign to whatever virtual server you want. That will not impact your default profile because default profile is called on different virtual server. But this special profile can be used in per virtual server where they want 600. I'll finish it. So that is called parent-child relationship. Now I want to call on virtual server. I'll go here. This is very critical settings. Please never change or modify. It will really impact. Here you can change. So here you can say TCP customer timeout. And what does it mean? Server profile, use client profile. Whatever is there in client profile, you can use same here in this. That is very critical. So that is client and server profile differentiate. If you want to change, you can change it. But if you want to use whatever is there in client profile, that will be called on server profile. So that is what it is saying. So whenever you will create, it will be created from default profile. Whatever you want to inherit, that you can inherit. Whatever you want to change, that will be changed by selecting checkbox. That is how it is. We have a parent profile, then you have created child, it can become parent for another profile. Because another profile, like for this profile, this can be parent, right? Because your custom profile can be parent from another profile. Now let's go further on. So by default, virtual server have this profile, or this profile. When we'll talk about, there are different types of virtual server. In some virtual server, you can have performance layer for forwarding or standard. Whenever there is a standard virtual server, it means it can handle full proxy architecture. 95% time in your architecture or in your company, you will use standard virtual server. But in some case, F5 can act as layer 4 also. F5 can act as a router also. So we'll discuss that. The one which we are discussing is application layer virtual server that can handle your layer 7 load balancing. 95% time you want load balance to use that. This one we have already discussed, like how we can see profiles, how we can assign parent and child relationship. If you want to create a custom profile, you have to give name, then whatever settings you will change uh, will get changed. But if you don't get select custom, that will not get in. If you select custom here, checkbox, that will not get inherit. Others will get inherit. That's it. Now, persistence profile in detail we'll discuss. Very, very critical. And then we will do the lab. When I talk about persistence profile, what happens in that? Persistence profile is used to direct a client back to same server after initial load balancing decision has been made. Always please understand, when client will connect to this virtual server, I have three servers in my load balancing algo. First, always there will be load balancing selection. Let's say it's selected server one. So next session, if I will, let's say if I have a source address persistence, I'm giving one example. Let's say it's having source address persistence profile called on this virtual server. It will check whether it's an existing connection, then it will check in persistence table. If it's an existing connection, then another request from same client will be going to same server. Can you tell me one thing, one interview question for you all? HTTP protocol, it is stateful or stateless? Anyone? When I talk about HTTP protocol, is it stateful or stateless? It's a basic question. Don't worry if you don't know, but I want to just understand your approach. So when I talk about HTTP profile, it is a stateless protocol. What does stateless mean? Stateless means there is no record of previous interaction between client and server. No record is maintained between your client and server. And traffic is not monitored. It is simply a request and response traffic. It is unrelated to previous case. But however, when I talk about stateful traffic, in that case, both client and server, when they will interact using F5, it will keep track of current state. That previously it was connected to which server. So how we can make HTTP profile stateful? Anyone? By default, HTTP profile is stateless, but I want to make it stateful. Which concept will help it to make it stateful? That is an interview question. Persistence is a concept which will make your HTTP protocol stateful. That is what it's saying. It's required for stateful connections such as e-commerce shopping cart. Very, very critical. See, for me, basics are very critical. If basics is not real, then it is very, very difficult to understand. Now, when I talk about initially in the market, HTTP was stateless. Okay, when I go further on, I'll draw one diagram. Just 1 minute. Okay. So what it says is in shopping carts, shopping website. Can you see whenever you access, let's say Blinkit, Jepto, Flipkart, Amazon.com, what happened? You log in first thing. After that, what you will do? You will view web pages where you whether you want to buy phone, you want to buy wallet, you want to buy garments, shirt, pant. So you will view the pages. Whatever you like it, you will add in that item in your shopping cart. And you will perform checkout maybe today or after 10 days. Have you seen that process? How it is done? It is done using this persistence session. How these interactions are? All interactions are stateful. That is why it is present on your card. Because it is very important what action the user has already performed. So it is very important to make sure that the client request, same client request always get into same server. Can someone tell me what is session? Let's go to basics. I'll take an interview now. Mr. Sajan, please unmute yourself. What is session according to you?
As per
Dhruv.
my understanding, session means if I'm initiating a query to the server, so the first session from my side, query to we go reach to the server, that is the session.
Okay. So can I say it's a communication channel between two hosts?
Yes,
Session is stateful or stateless?
depend. Just as we had discussed, no, that previously in that you can say traditional, there were that only say stateless, but nowadays we can say it's stateful also. We can.
So according to you, session is when client initially connect to any web server or website. At that time, there will be one session. Does it
Yes,
has any session ID?
yes, it should.
But how it will help? Let's say I'm a developer of that website. Does this session help me to gather any information?
Yes, as we know that there are session ID must be over there,
What it will help
like
as
PID.
an like I am a developer of that website? What it will help to detect? Is it help to detect something as a developer? Can I use this session to store application data? Like your application data to be stored, right? You how
Yeah,
your Amazon.com will know that in this cart Sajan has bought something. After few days
yeah.
also you will see that it is present in that cart. How it is possible? Through which it is using somewhere it's
Persistence.
storing some application data, right?
That persistence options.
Persistence is to make sure same client should go to same server. I'm
Okay,
talking
okay.
about like you are storing something where it is getting stored.
Server.
So in that case, what happen is Session is the ID which will help me to detect that which Sajan has bought which item. So developer will create the website. In that, it can use this session to store application data like shopping cart number, customer ID. So all this is stored. So that's why it's represented with that. So can I say
Right.
using only one server, client will always end on the same server and that session data is relevant to that client. Can I say that?
No, more actually,
Because that
due
is
to
what
that.
I want, right? Whenever I log in, I buy something, I add. Let's say I want to transfer some money to Vidit sir. So I
Okay.
will add in my bank transfer. I log in, then I will initiate. I want to add some money, then I'll add, then I'll do back transfer. Then will select payee. Do you want that it should go to different servers, or you want that request should go to same server?
It should go to same server only.
Correct. So that
Yeah.
is what sessions and persistence. So session is a stateful ID with
Yes.
various parameters. Sajan, your background voice is always more. I'm not sure.
Actually, sir, I'm at site now. That is my
No
problem.
problems. No problems. So I'll just mute you. So very good, Sajan. I'm really appreciated the way you answered it. So your
Thank
TCP
you.
concepts and other concepts are very good. This will be an interview question when you attend any interview on tech level. So session is something which is stateful, which is having your different parameter information and variable. So it will be assigned to a particular session. So it will always have your session ID linked with it. That is called session. Now, what will happen in stateful connection? Let's say I have a stateful communication with load balancing. I have load balancing servers, multiple server, and I have stateful communication with load balancing. Because one of the core features of F5 is load balancing capability. So I want my F5 instead of one server to handle the request. I have multiple server to handle the request. What happens to the traffic using this scenario? Let's say Mr. Apurv Singh is a client who wants to send a request to sianets.com. What will happen first, Apurv? Initially, when a client connects to a virtual server, Apurv, how traffic will come? What will be the flow? Can you explain, Apurv Singh? You can unmute yourself and explain me step by
First,
step in 5 steps.
first client, first client will communicate to the virtual IP. Then virtual IP will go to the server. Hello, hello.
As an interviewer, Apurv, your answer is not correct. I am asking you a simple question. When client work connects to the virtual server, what will happen? You are saying it will connect to virtual server. That is, everyone knows. I want to understand from packet level, what will happen, Apurv? From the packet level, initially what will happen? First will be DNS resolution. After that, second thing, always remember once TCP DNS resolution is completed, TCP three-way handshake is needed. So when I talk about TCP three-way handshake, in that case, what will happen, Apurv? Sync, SYNAC acknowledgement. This is what I'm expecting from you all to be answered in interview at packet level. After TCP handshake, what will happen? So it will select a pool member, whether this or this, based on load balancing. So at first, the application will most likely function as it should be. But when client sends a new request to big IP, it can happen go to different server. It can have go to different server. But I want it should go to same pool member. So the session data that was created in the first member is no longer available because client went to new server. Now the question is, Mr. Apur, if it's a shopping website, so in that case, client will lose his shopping cart because your session is no longer valid. So in that scenario, how you want your traffic should handle and it should go to same server, your persistence connection comes into picture. So persistence is called stickiness, affinity that used to direct additional request or connection from client to same server as it is first connection. This means that any state information that is stored on the real server will be available to client. This type of traffic is generally used in voice application, web application, or your shopping website. Very, very important to understand this. That's what I wanted to tell you how persistence work. Now, let's go further. So in this case, when I talk about persistence, persistence means same request. If it comes again from the same client, should go to same server. So we have SSL persistence, cookie persistence, source address persistence. So we'll go one by one, but you need to understand how F5 will track whether it's an existing client or a new request. So they have different types. When I talk about source address, it is based on source IP. It will examine whether it's an existing connection or a new connection. So first we will go with source address persistence. Then we have cookie persistence. It is based on your browser cookie. When we have destination address, it is based on the destination IP address. When you have SSL session, if it's an encrypted session, then it will be using SSL session ID. Then we have some custom using iRule. You can also create persistence that it should go to same server. This one we have already discussed. Let's go first. First, we'll work with source address based persistence. I have 3 clients. Let's do a lab. So in this case, I have client 1, client 2, client 3. So when this source address persistence is used, when a client connects to a virtual server, it will check there will be one persistence table, which is there on F5, which will have client IP address stored with pool member. So if there is a match, big IP will always direct the traffic of same client to that same pool member. So there will be a table that will be built. So I will draw a picture for you all how the table is used. Let's say I have 2 clients. One is 192, 168, 1.10. One is 192, 168, 1.11. Then I have a firewall. Then I have F5. I have one virtual server with 192.168.1.80. Then I have three servers. 10.2.2.30, 10.2.2.31, and third one is 10.2.2.32. And I need to use source address persistence with timeout setting 180 second. I'll talk about 180 second timeout. What does it mean? So there will be one table which will have persistence value. Then there will be persistence mode. Then there will be virtual server. Then which pool it's going. Then pool member. And then there will be one age column in that table. So let's say I have two client, 10 and 11. So let's say 1.10 initiate a connection. So L value will be client IP here in table. Mode will be source address. Virtual server is 192.168.1.80. And pool is HTTP pool. Example, pool member is 10.2.2.30. Age is 180 second by default. Another connection. Same way, another connection is 11. Source address. Virtual server is same, but pool member is 10.2.31. Now, within 180 seconds, let's say if it is not expired, timeout is maximum session connection it can handle. Let's say in 180 seconds, there is no same client request comes onto this virtual server. Then again that will get reset and it will go to another server using load balancing algo. But within 180 second, if a same client hit another traffic on that virtual server, same virtual server, then this age will get reset. So this table will help F5 to determine whether it's an existing connection or new connection. If it's new connection, then load balancing algo will happen. If it's an existing connection, then it will go to according to the persistence table. So you have persistence value means IP from where connection is started. Persistence mode tell you that we are using source address persistence. Virtual server means which virtual server this record is applied. Then we have pool member, name of the pool that pool member is part of. And then we have age, till how much time persistence entry should be present in persistence table. So traffic, there is very critical condition you need to understand. Traffic will be directed to same pool member unless persistence record timeout. These are the condition. This is an interview question. Till what time your connection will go to same pool member? Until persistence record timeout or pool member goes down due to health monitor. So these are the two conditions. So they have an idle timeout because you cannot store multiple entries in your persistence table because it can impact memory and CPU resources. If your record is not being used within idle timeout period, it will be removed from persistence table. So next request will go according to load balancing algo. So the default idle timeout is either 180 seconds or 300 seconds. Like if it's a TCP traffic, then it is 300 seconds. In UDP, what is the idle timeout? Anyone? If someone tell me this correct answer, please call me on Monday. There will be a special goodie for you. What is the idle timeout in UDP? Please reply on the chat. What is the default idle timeout in UDP? Okay, Santosh and Krishna, you are not correct. Anyone else? Ravi Kumar, no. Ganesh, no. Vikas, no. I hope there is testing going on. Now you will understand how is your basics, whether we are good in CCNA and TCP level. No one is correct. 60 seconds. Sajan was correct, but he did not said correct. He said 60 or 30 seconds. So this is how source address connection persistence works. So let's do a quick lab. I'll go. I will have two client here, guys. One I'll have my laptop and one we'll have XP machine. So I'll turn on my XP also. Just 1 minute, I'll turn on my XP also. I'll make two client here. One is my XP machine. XP machine was previously in which Vimnet 2. I'll change it to external now. I'll make it as one laptop. You can also do the same. Just it will take, I'll share my screen. I have to power off and change it to Vimnet 0 external. Then I'll turn on. Or I'll make it bridged only. Okay, now it's coming. I'm sharing my screen. So make it two machine. One is your laptop to this do lab for source address persistence. So I'll have a lab. I'll have two machines. One my client, one machine, laptop. Then I have client two, which is Windows. I have one laptop IP 192.168, let's say 1.10. This will have 1.96 1.12. Just one example. Then I will perform a lab. I will connect both the clients to my virtual server with source address persistence. Then I will show you how the table is maintained. So I'll just change IP address automatically because previously it was Vimnet 2 because it was internal. Now I'll check the IP address. What is my IP address? 1.11. Now I'll do one thing. I'll go log in. Now I'll go to local traffic, virtual server. I'll just go here. I have TCP profile. I'll just go to resources. Here I'll assign persistence profile. Persistence profile is in resources tab. I'll say source address update. And how I can see that persistence profile? Go to profiles, persistence. And this is how source address is. If you see timeout is 180 seconds. We'll talk about this prefix length also, but this is where timeout setting is, like how much time my connection will remain in my table. So let's go. Okay. Now I'll go to virtual server. I have assigned this. Now I'll access this virtual server from my laptop and both. And I will check what does this pool have. How many members are there in this pool? Monitor pool. 3 pool members. So let's go. Now question for you all. Question for you all, but there I'll ask one question to Mr. Kamlesh. Not Kamlesh, sorry. Mr. Rakesh Raj. Rakesh, now I have configured one new virtual server. Rakesh, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Rakesh, can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir, yeah.
Rakesh, I cannot hear you. I think there is a background noise, so you will not be allowed to answer. Mr. Sanjeev Singh, can you hear me, Sanjeev? Or Santosh, can you unmute Santosh?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Santosh. Santosh, what we are doing right now, Santosh? Hello, Santosh. What concept we are covering now? I cannot hear you anyways, not an issue. So now I have two client, one with 192.168.1.11, one with client 192.168.1.12. I'll ask someone else. Santosh is also on mute. Mr. Arjun, can you unmute? Guys, whoever is not active will not be part of my light member group after this training. So please be interactive. This will really help you. Mr. Joshua Anthony or Mr. Ravi Kumar.
Hello, sir. Yeah, hello, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes.
Yes, sir.
So,
So we are focusing on source address, no?
okay.
Source
Now
address
my question is,
persistence.
now I will connect this virtual server from this IP. First,
Okay.
it will go to which server?
Uh, for, First, it will go to the least what we have selected. That one round robin. It will be S1.
So you can say that answer is first it will go to according to load balancing algo. Come on, you have to
Yes,
answer with
yes,
interview. What is least
yes.
connection? There is no least
Least
connection, right? You need to answer. It will
the
first go to
default one.
correct.
Yeah, the load
So let's
balancing
say
algo.
let's connect. Okay, I'll initiate. What is my virtual server IP? 1.85. So I'll connect with my Windows XP machine. Let's go see where it goes. I'll go to Google Chrome.
Okay.
192, 1.85. It has gone to blue server. It is going to blue server. Now next request, if I close this browser, if I initiate it from Mozilla, then it will go to which server again? It is same client Joshua. It will go to which server? Previously it was going to which server? So if you see that I'm initiating a connection from same client, it is going to blue server even if I have load balancing algo. Without persistent, it should go to red, green, blue. But it is always going whether I'm opening from Mozilla or either I'm opening from Google Chrome, it is going to blue server. That is how source address persistence works. Now I'll show you the table, how the table you can see. I'm not happy with Joshua and everyone. You are not active, please be active. So when I go to module statistics, I'll go to local traffic, go to statistics type, persistence record. I need to enable this command through CLI to see the table. So I'll go to putty, 137 to 20. I'll just enable this from TMSH. Okay, I have enabled this. Table is saved. This command is to enable table. Now I'll refresh. Now what you can see, my client IP, persistence mode, which virtual server, pool, and which server. Now if I connect again here, see the age value now. I'll refresh. Age value will get reset. Until it reaches 180 seconds, it will go to this server. Let's give some time. Once it crosses 180 seconds, then what will happen, Mr. Joshua? Will this entry remain in table or not? Once this 180 seconds timeout is received, whether this entry will get deleted until there is no other request coming here. I don't want that entry to be in table. So let's see. I'll wait. Now I'll initiate one connection from this machine also. I'll go to private window 1.185. It is also going to same server. That's okay. So I have two tables. Let's wait. Can you see? Even I refresh, it is going to same server throughout the session. That's only I want, right? Now I will not initiate traffic from both the machine. I'll refresh when it reaches 180 second. Then we will see that whether it's going to different server or not, whether entry is getting deleted from that table. Whenever the persistence record is created, the age value will start to count upwards till configured timeout value. Once it reaches the timeout, it will be removed from persistence table. But as long as new request that matches this record, then age value will reset and return to 0. So let's see. Let's wait for few seconds. So right now, if you see here, one of the entry is 124 seconds. Let's wait until 180 seconds. Mr. Gorave, can you unmute yourself? Mr. Raghu.
Yes,
So Gaurav, Raghu, are you getting?
yes, sir, getting.
So once it reaches 180 second, according to you, Raghu, will it get deleted from this entry? And again, load balancing will happen. What do you say? Now 161 seconds have been crossed. Once it crosses 180 seconds, let's see what will be magic. Raghu, Gaurav, can you see? Now if I initiate it again, will it go to same server or it will be having load balancing? Anyone? If I refresh now, will it go to blue server? It can go if it selects, but it can go to different server. Now if I refresh from any browser, now it's going to red server. Even I clear the cache, it will go to the same server, red server. That is what I wanted to show you. I'll refresh. because it was showing from cache. Now see Raghu. Previously it was 10.32. Now IP address is another server. That is how source address persistence works. That is why lab is critical to understand. Now, if there was one more setting which I want to discuss, then we'll have a Q&A. When I go to source address, there is one prefix length. What does this prefix length means? Prefix length means whatever subnet mask you will define, let's say if it is 255.255.255.0, so it will check the first three IP address. If it is same, then it will go to same server. But it is if it is your by default your net mask is 255, 255, 255.255. In that case, this entry will be separate. This entry will be considered as separate because all values, this source address or mask settings generally defines that how persistence record will be created. Whether each IP will have its own persistence record or if this mask syntax is this, then if it's 3 bits, it will check 3 bits. If it's same, it will go to same server. But there is one disadvantage of this method. Anyone can tell me why? This method is very strong and simple, and it works at layer 7. It is not dependent on your application data, like such as cookie persistence. As long as your client IP does not get changed during your timeout period, traffic will direct to same pool member. Even if it is simple, it has disadvantage. What is the disadvantage it has? Let's say I have a client 1, client 2, client 3. Then I have a proxy. Then I have F5. One problem that you will likely run into then when multiple client connects to virtual server throughout the proxy or a firewall that has an ability to net the traffic. So in that case, what will happen? This IP is 192.168.1.11, 1.12, 1.13, but there is a NAT IP. Let's say NAT IP is 1.1.1.1. Even your IP address is different, but F5 will see which IP now. So in this case, all of your requests will appear from this IP address. So what will happen? It will overload your this server. So even your client IPs are different, but all of requests will come from same source IP. Thus, it will create a single persistence record. This will create uneven load balancing. Even your three clients have different IP, but there will be one persistence record because clients are translated into 1.1.1.IP. So to resolve this, cookie persistence comes into picture. So that is a disadvantage of this source address persistence.